Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me for Timeout Tuesday today. Actually, I'm trying to get my camera back. I don't know what just happened, but that was weird. I can't see anything, so give me a second. There we go. Okay. Thank you for joining me for Timeout Tuesday today. It's episode 129. This is the 129th week that I've been coming to you live on Tuesday afternoons. And, today I wanted to use this opportunity to chat with you a little bit about the future. And you know, I guess anybody who has attended any of our events at the school or our classes or really anything that we do at the karate school um, knows that I like to plan things within an inch of its life. I like to overplan. I like to play out every possible scenario of how things are going to go. It's one of the things that lets us have these very large 180 kid type of events for our dojo Olympics and things like that, and have them run very smoothly. Everybody gets a turn. Everybody has gets the attention of the instructors during events. These are things that are very important to me, and I just am a firm believer in plan heavy. Make sure you go through every possible scenario. And so I guess based on that, it's not entirely surprising that many of the parents at the school have been asking me about my plan. What's my plan for the future? Now that we're, I guess we're over 3 months into this pandemic. New York State is in its current state is, I guess, somewhere in what they're referring to as phase three, maybe heading towards a phase four. But, based on a lot of the news that's happening in other parts of the country now, a lot of these openings are beginning to roll back, and a lot of things that were open are beginning to close down. And in fact, in Arizona today, they announced, I believe, that gyms and other bars and restaurants are closing down as well. I'm not 100% sure of that, so don't hold me to that. It's just what I just read that about 10 minutes ago before this video. And so, part of what I've been going through is trying to figure out if, in fact, I can really effectively plan. And it's a very tricky thing, and it's something that I've not really encountered before. I like to over plan for everything. It's part of being a martial artist. Scenario planning. It's a throwback to previous professions where I did a lot of disaster recovery and business continuity planning. So we were always thinking about all the ways that things could go wrong, and ways to handle them and continue with business. And that those skills came in handy when it was time to close down for this, for the pandemic. They seem to be a little bit less effective, however, for planning to reopen. And here's the reason why. Um, First and foremost, I want to be clear that my opinions on anything related to this pandemic are completely apolitical. I don't think that this is a political issue at all. I think this is an issue of science and nature, and the things that we're going to do are going to be based on science and nature. That's how this is going to go away. It's not going to go away by talking badly about your neighbors for what they are or are not doing. That's just my opinion. Um, but our decision to close down when we did was not based on a politician, or anyone for that matter, saying now school businesses like karate schools have to close. Our decision to close down was based on us looking at what was going on in our environment, what was happening in the news in terms of the science that was being revealed, um, and what we felt was in the best interest of the health and safety of our members, their immediate families, and quite frankly, my immediate family, including myself, obviously. And so that was our decision. Our decision to close was because it was the prudent thing to do, to comply with what was being advised by people that I trusted. And people that I trusted were people in the science community. Um, and people that were first responders. And I've mentioned this in many videos in the past that many of our members are first responders, medical workers, and people that work in hospitals in various capacities. And so I hear what they're saying, and I get and I pay attention to the science. And so that's what caused us to shut down. Clearly, we would have shut down when the law said we had to as well, but we did it in advance of that. And now we find ourselves on the flip side of this. The flip side is that New York State did fairly well in containing, or I suppose flattening, the curve, and began the process of reopening, in my opinion, again, a little slower and more prudently than other states did. But I think that we're definitely seeing, even in New York State, a relaxing of the protocols around mask wearing and social distancing. And I do think that people are getting, in my opinion, prematurely comfortable with things, and that with this particular virus seems to have a way of kind of biting you in the butt later on. And so the fact that we might be approaching a date in the near future that businesses that are categorized as phase 4 would be allowed to reopen with a lot of restriction, it is not necessarily going to be the thing that guides our decision making. First of all, it's not entirely clear where our business fits. There are many people around the country that I associate with in various online groups that are martial arts and gym owners, and they're chomping at the bit to open. Many of them are in states that opened very early, and they're making every effort to, again, in my opinion, circumvent the rules, redefining what their business is so that they're not a gym, but they're an education facility, or in some cases the other way around, whatever lets them open earlier. And then they open with a lot of restrictions that I find to be somewhat onerous in terms of successfully running a school. I'll get to that in a minute, though. So while it's a little bit unclear as to whether we would fall into phase 4 or not, what is clear to me is that given what's going on in the rest of the country, the direction of rolling back the openings, I would say possibility, I don't want to say probability because I don't really know that that's true, the possibility that something like that could occur in New York and they could start rolling back things or adding additional restrictions to enforce either social distancing, mask wearing, or whatever it is that is the thought process du jour from the science community. I'm not chomping at the bit to open. And to be clear what I mean by that, I would love to open. I would love to see our students back in the school again. I would love to teach hands-on in the way that we're used to learning. I enjoy the face-to-face interaction with our members, the parents, the students. I think that they enjoy the social experience with one another, and it's a wonderful community. And it is with that in mind that our decision to open will be entirely based on the safety and the security of our members, of their families, and my family. The same decision that closed us down. I could not, in good conscience, tell my members or my staff, well, frankly, my family, that it was safe to go back to the school and hold classes, provided that we're taking the temperature of every student that walks in the door, that no parents are permitted to walk in the door with their children, that there'll be no waiting area for any students of any age. The parents must leave the building, must leave their children behind. That the children must wear masks, they must sanitize before, during, and after classes, and any time that they touch their mask, that the bathrooms are off limits, there's no changing in the school, and that we're not going to be using any shared equipment whatsoever. So no bags, no targets, no weapons. There's actually quite a few more restrictions that make it, the number of students would be limited to a fraction of what we normally have in any given class. That would require us to have sign-ups and people vying for spots in classes. And all of these things, while doable, and while there are schools doing these things, I don't think that this is in the safety or health interests of anybody, and including in that health interest is the mental health interest of this, of the anxiety that this could cause our students to have to be, first of all, working out with masks on. That could create some breathing issues for students, especially those that might already have allergies or asthma issues. The concerns about touching anything, touching anyone, touching your own mask, all of these things I think can create a very anxiety-driven situation. And when I compare that to the current situation that we're operating under right now, which is the Zoom, the virtual classes, the online, so many of the things are the same. We're not using any shared equipment in the Zoom environment, obviously. We are, no one's coming into school, no one's interacting with one another, right? And we're coming up with different ways of teaching our curriculum, which, as evidenced by our recent test, our students are just soaking up information and excelling in this environment. So the feedback that I've been getting is that the classes are valuable, the students are moving forward, and while it's not desirable, we're making the most of it, and we're providing a viable way for students to learn. And I think that we're doing that in a way that is preserving their health and their other best interests and the health of our staff and my family. And so with that in mind, I guess I'm leaving you with this. Here's my plan. My plan is that we're going to continue to watch everything very carefully. We are anxious to open whenever it's safe, but we are not going to open even 1 minute before we think. Sorry, someone's just driving by right now. You probably can't hear me. But our intent is not to open even 1 minute before we think that it's going to be safe for everybody. I'm very interested in people's opinions about their willingness to allow their students or themselves, their children or themselves, to attend public classes like this in the not distant future. I know in the distant future we all plan to be able to go back to normal, but I'm curious, and please feel free to comment below. Whether you agree with me or disagree with me is fine. I do ask that we kind of keep it apolitical, because I'm not interested in getting into a large political debate. There are just too many unproven both sides here. So I would like to open up that conversation to people. I on a regular basis do engage the parents that have experience in the medical community for what their opinions are. Please let me know what yours are. Your opinions matter to me more than anybody's. I guess maybe with the possible exceptions of people in the science community right now. But in any case, that's it for today. Sorry, I just smashed my camera. That's it for today. This was a very long Time Out Tuesday, probably the longest one I've ever done. It's an important topic. I apologize for taking up so much of your time, but I do hope that everyone has a fantastic day today, and I wish everybody peace.